All right, so anyway, I had a moment of panic this week because I looked at the syllabus and it said 5 speakers in 1 hour. And I'm not a CPA, but I did the math in my head and I thought we'd have 10 minutes here. So I got here this morning and Pam says, all right, you got 5 minutes to do this presentation. So we'll see how it goes, Pam, but I appreciate that. I've been at Naden now for 10 years, and that's a long time to be in my role. Oftentimes people say, Andrew, what do you do? And I say, I make the phone ring. It doesn't really matter what my title is. That's fairly immaterial at this point. As long as this phone is ringing, I can call myself whatever I want to call myself. But if you're curious about who I am and what I do, you can scan this QR code with your smart device, and it contains my entire professional background. All the talks I've given, all the articles I've written, everything is embedded right there into that QR code. That's okay. That's all right, Laura. Anyway, you can get these for free at Google, and that is Google without a www in front of it, without a .com after it. It's a short little URL, and what you do is you take whatever website you want to direct someone to with your QR code, you plug it in there, it shrinks your long URL address down to a very manageable piece, but it also creates a little QR code for you. And it gives you a free dashboard that looks something like this. This is a QR code that we generated for our newsletter about one of our dental clients who had an issue with this practice. But as you can see, this is free. I can find out what kind of browser someone viewed this with. I can see where this person came from. I can see how many people clicked on that link or used that QR code in a certain given period of time. On the back of my business cards, I have QR codes, and someone can either look at my CV or they can sign up for our newsletter. I've seen people use QR codes to like their social media assets, whether it's a Facebook page or gain a Twitter follow. There's a lot of things that you can use with these QR codes. Anyway, this is part of Google's grand scheme to take over the world. I don't know if any of you recognize the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Flying Spaghetti Monster was created by Bobby Henderson in 2005. He was upset that Kansas wanted to introduce intelligent design and creationism as part of the curriculum for the school system. So Bobby Henderson, in his infinite wisdom, said, I'm going to create my own religion, and we're going to call ourselves pastafarians, and we're going to worship the Flying Spaghetti Monster. But this ties back into that theme that Google is now becoming so omnipresent everywhere in our lives. And in fact, these little phone things that you guys are holding right now, taking pictures with, those are a thing of the past. The next 5 years, obviously, everything is going to be ocular. You're going to be wearing your devices. And that's how you're going to see the entire world with an augmented reality portrayed through your screens. And I also, bold prediction here, predict that cars on your windshields, all your information, your GPSs, your speed, all that stuff will be projected on your windshield, so you no longer have to look down into a console. So anyway, farm dumps. This is a Google map of my neighborhood. And one of the things I really am passionate about is going and finding treasure that sits on the ground, whether it be geological treasure or, in this case, old stuff that people dumped in the back of their fields in the day. So I would take a look at a picture like this, and I'd overlay the terrain and the topography and start figuring out where in there would I be likely to find somebody's treasure to me that was junk to them back 200 years ago. And as a CPA, you have the same sort of issue. There's a lot of different places you can go to network, to try and find clients. Due to some of our social media and search engine optimization efforts, we get between 2 and 6 leads per day from people that contact us all over the country that want to engage us. And these are cold to lukewarm types of leads. Maybe 1 out of 10 will result in turning into a client. If I go into these networking events and using some of these techniques and rules I'm going to talk about, you can get between 5 and 10 good, warm to hot prospects a month by doing this. And I want to give a special shout out to the BBJ. The young lady left the table there. I really like the Baltimore Business Journal. There she is in the back waving at me. The Baltimore Business Journal puts on some spectacular events, a great way to meet people. They had one yesterday, the Business Expo, free to attendees. There were 300, 400 people there. I made some great contacts, got some tremendous business cards by going to that. But as a CPA, there's a wide variety of places you can go. And typically, you're not going to want to do that. You're going to have someone like me go out there. But there will come a day that you're going to be forced to do something like that. So this is my son, Steve. And what Steve is doing right now, he's digging through a farm dump that we found. Because I understood the topography, I knew there was a likelihood of a farm dump being in a certain area. And it's kind of hard to make out. Number one, because it's autumn and it's brown on brown here. But what he's digging through there is a bunch of glass bottles. And the majority of these bottles, in fact, I don't think we found a single bottle in this dump that was less than 100 years old. But fantastic. It's just sitting there. And there's a value to these bottles, too, a real significant value. In fact, out of this dump, here's a couple of the treasures that we found. Nondescript looking, I give you that. I mean, if you looked at that, you say, oh, this is junk, I'm just going to break those in a rock somewhere. But the ones in the middle there, those are P.J. Ritter ketchup bottles. P.J. Ritter, those ketchup companies started by P.J. Ritter and his wife back in 1854 in Philadelphia. And for some reason, this guy, this farmer, whoever it was that dumped this stuff out there, liked ketchup, because we found a lot of those bottles in there, in addition to the whiskey bottles you see, there's a couple of wine bottles and beer bottles. In fact, there is you can barely see it on the far right-hand side, a Vicks Vapor Rub jar. I thought, well, I'm just going to take it because it's cool. And I go and research it, and the darn thing's worth $5. In fact, this entire picture here, that's almost $200 worth of glass sitting right there that we've cleaned up. I'm not selling this. This is stuff my wife calls junk. It stays out in the barn, but my son and I love to go and pick this stuff out of here. What does that mean to you guys? Actually, and with the P.J. Ritter company, too, I really applaud them because I'm a chili head. I love stuff hot and spicy. They had a Tabasco ketchup back in the day in the early 1900s. I give them a lot of credit for doing something like that. Very revolutionary for P.J. Ritter and Company. But anyway, what does that mean to you guys? Let's say that you have to go to one of these events. Let's say that someone has twisted your arm to buy a sponsorship, and with that sponsorship comes a table at a networking event that you have to go to. How do you maximize your time at that event? Number one, since this is fast and furious, I'm going to give you one of the best techniques out there, and that's the Wallflowers. The Wallflowers are those people that, when you go to one of these networking events, they stand on the periphery. They don't engage. They're not out there trying to pass out their business card. They're trying to be as anonymous as possible. And those are the people that I seek out. I'll give you two quick examples of how this worked out for me. I went to a PSA financial educational event. And in the one room, that's where all the networkers were, and they were doing their thing. I went to the other room, and I found a Wallflower. And I engaged him. He didn't have a name tag on it. I engaged him in a conversation. And it turned out he was the CEO of an enormous engineering company. So big that it wouldn't even be a prospect for us. But we had a great personal conversation because I talked to him at that point in time. And I was able to refer him to a bank that he wanted to try and get into. It was a wonderful connection there. Another networking event was a Smart CEO event. Same thing. I saw a Wallflower, saw a guy that looked very uncomfortable. And I approached him and I started talking to him. It turns out he was the president of a very large consulting company. And that is a prospect for us. So I've spoken to him and continued that conversation. And I also introduced him to some other friends of mine as they came into the room. So he had a more of a warm feeling about being at that event, and he really appreciated me talking to him at that given time. I spoke a little bit about the PSA Financial, the other room. You can tell those glad-handing networkers. They're the guys that are loud, or gals that are loud. They're flashy. They're surrounded by a bunch of people like them. They try to out-joke each other, out-backslap each other, whatever that thing is. Stay away from them. Unless you really want to try and get into that popular clique. I'll say hello to them, but I'm going to move away because they're going to get into my, they're going to be a hurdle for me to find those Wallflowers and find those prospects in the room at that given time. But you can recognize them as well. So my advice to you as well is when you come to an event, get the next slide, you want to get there so early that you're there before the help is there. This is another key technique. You can, back in the day when I lived a fast, sinful life and I frequented a lot of blues bars, I would always go early because I get the best parking spot. I could either park next to the door or more likely I'd park right by the exit with my car facing out. So as soon as 2 o'clock rolled around, the bar shut down, I was out the door on the road before the cops even knew I was out there. And the same thing for you guys. You come to an event like this, arrive early. You get the great VIP parking, you know. You might even get Martin Resnick's spot if you get here early enough. Additionally, you find out where's the food coming in. The Baltimore Business Journal a couple of years ago did a great book a list event at the zoo. And so I got there early, and I found out which door the bacon-wrapped scallops are coming out of and which door the empty plates are coming back into. So I positioned myself as the food came out so I'd have first dibs at the duck as it came off the plate there. So thank you guys for doing that. I really appreciate that. There have been a couple events I've arrived early where I've helped set up the room. In fact, there was one right here. It was a large association, and I wanted to meet the executive director. I didn't know how. He wouldn't take my phone call. So I came to his event an hour early. I said, what can I do? He said, you can put stuff on the tables for me. That'd be a big help. So I did. I set up all the tables for him. And I said, after that, I said, what else can I do for you? He goes, you know what you can do? You can stand by the front door there and greet people as they come in and give them their name tags. Game over. I mean, that was the perfect spot for me to be. And to this day, we are now very good friends. Oh, and he said, Andrew, you've helped me so much. Why don't you sit at the same table with Patrick Turner and his wife and the other VIPs in there? I said, great. Yeah, I appreciate that. All because I came painfully early to that event. Now, another thing, too, is when you come to events like this, you want to stand near the door. A lot of reasons why you want to do that. Number one, people are going to think that somehow you're involved with the event. Maybe you're a sponsor. Maybe you're a host. Maybe you're a speaker. I don't know. When I come to events, I have a series of name tags. This is just one of them. And as you can see, there's a ribbon on the bottom that says speaker. Some of my name tags have something that says sponsor on it. Some don't say anything at all. So depending upon what the event is, I can just slip this on. And in fact, this is my name tag. This is not an MACPA name tag, large font. So you can, I typically walk. All right, thank you for the reactions there. I appreciate that. Typically when I speak to CPA societies, no one reacts to anything I say, so it throws me off sometimes when people are laughing. So these are obviously not CPAs or it was learned behavior for them. Also, as people come in through the door and you're standing there, you can identify who do I want to talk to as they walk in there, and you can pick people off as they come through. And back to the prior slide, you don't have to go back, but back to the prior slide, when you arrive early, you have a chance to scan the name tag so you know who is going to be there. Who are your competitors going to be there, who are your prospects, who are your clients, who are your referral sources, so you have an advantage as you've gotten there early to know they're coming in the door. I went to a really interesting talk yesterday from Richard Flanagan, who's sitting right here in the front row, and this is one of his slides, and I captured it, and I said, that is brilliant, because I know that when I'm done talking, you're going to forget how much, Richard? 75% of what I've just said is going to go completely out of your head. The only thing I want you to remember as you walk out of here is a fork. This is it. This is all I want you to remember about this talk, is a fork. And I want you guys to be sticking forks into Wallflowers. And what is a fork? A is when you engage in that conversation. And I know sometimes social skills come more difficultly to CPAs and other people. Remember A. A is atmosphere, ambience. Hey, this is a cool place. I like that Greek facade they have out there. Wow, I love the lighting. The sound is great. Talk about the ambiance. Go to the next one there. F. How about that food? They have fresh fruit up there. That was really good. I love that tomato juice. Typically, you don't see tomato juice in an event like this. The coffee was great. I wonder where they got that from. BBJ, that's fine. O is, what do you do? So how long have you been doing that for? Do you enjoy what you do? What are you thinking about doing next? When I first got into sales, a very wise person told me that people don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care. So find out what they do. What really makes them tick? We go to the next one. What are their hobbies? You like farm dumping too? I can't believe I found somebody who really enjoys going out on the weekends, digging through the muck and mud to find hidden treasures like that. And the last one, I took a little liberty there. It's really a K or a Q. It's questions. After you've done all this warming this person up, have they asked you about yourself at all? Do they really care about you? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. If they haven't, say, hey, listen, I'd like to follow up with you some other time. Why don't we exchange business cards? And then go to LinkedIn, because I know all you guys have LinkedIn profiles. I know all you have a nice picture up there, and connect to them on LinkedIn. And then maybe a month or two later, invite them out for a cup of coffee or a meal or something like that. Get to know them on a more personal level. So I'll leave you with this. Thank you. Good karma is leaving an unsolicited positive recommendation on someone's LinkedIn profile. Think about today that one person who's so important to you, whether it's a mentor, a client, a referral source, someone in an association, and write a really nice positive recommendation for them, and don't expect anything in return. That's good karma. And lastly, I put my Twitter down there as Naden Lean. In your guidebook, you have me as Chesapeake Sun, which if you're into infectious brain diseases, solar phenomenon, stuff like that, you might enjoy that, but if you're into stuff like this, Naden Lean is definitely the Twitter handle that you want to go for. Thank you very much.